Test 1 2, test 1 2. ladies and gentlemen, we should be seeing our round of driver swaps here leading into hour number 8 of the 24 hours of Daytona here from the International Racing Organization, and we are just waiting to see the release of Sector 7 Esports number 5 Lexus. And there we go, Fuel Man is filling that car up, opted not to take a fresh set of tires here, saved himself 3 seconds in pit lane, and the number 5 Lexus should be out shortly. And our race leaders, our overall race leaders, are on track here as we continue on 8 hours deep now into our 24 hours of Daytona. And we should suspect to see the quiet part of the race over the next few hours is going to be teams just trying to put in those good consistent laps, trying to close and open gaps up in front of and behind, and really just try not to make the big mistake. We're going to be in the full night conditions here now at this point for the race, and it's going to be for the next few hours. So it's going to get a little hard to see deliveries, but the racing doesn't change. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And it has been, up to this point, a doozy. We do have our Esports Race Asylum Corvette next to come out here. And on track now, as that time gap between himself and the overall race leader, we'll have to wait till the live timing all sorts out. This will take about 4 to 5 laps here as each of the drivers make their way in to swap into the next pilot for the race. So we've seen from pretty much every team here so far a different driver in every stint up to this point. Now we do have about an average of 6 drivers per team. Some drivers have more, some may have less, but the overall average based across the teams is about 6 drivers. Over a 24-hour race, you're definitely going to be looking to have drivers on hand. You never know what happens during a race. Sometimes the driver falls ill or just something isn't right and you need to make that emergency call. It's good to have those extra drivers ready and willing and able to get in that car and do what they do best and race. So it's good to see a good healthy number of drivers for each team, because that means each team should not, hopefully and ideally, have any issues fielding their cars for the season. So just for those of us that are tuning in, we are going to be starting a new broadcast right here on the International Racing Organization YouTube channel, and that will be starting shortly here as the swaps continue on. So we've got our Labs Dino back in the helm here. The Aston Martin V12 started the race off here for Loose Moose Racing, currently holding down the final podium position. That puts Stig in the Sector 7 Racing car. Which one is this? Is this the Boomer car? This is the Boomer car, if I'm not mistaken. And that's going to put Team Grid Life out in 5th place. And just as Team Grid Life comes out, you see the 2nd place Corvette just going around there. So a lap down at the moment is Team Grid Life. About a lap and a half at this point. At the moment here, no immediate battles coming out from the pit lane. Now, as we've all seen throughout the race here today, they are very low on fuel, as the drivers coming in are basically on fumes, so they do need to fill these tanks back up, which is obviously going to delay how quickly each team gets out of pit lane. How much fuel they're taking, however, will determine how much time they're going to spend in pit lane. So that varies from strategy to strategy, from team to team, and some teams may opt to get rid of that cold tire and just take a new set of tires, but you have to consider that that is going to cost you 3 seconds extra in pit lane as well. Prima GTR here coming out in 7th position. And this is the McCougar team here, the Lexus. We have all 3 Sector 7 teams in the top half of the grid here currently. We have Jali I believe. If I'm mispronouncing that, I do apologize. Some of these are very complicated to pronounce if you don't understand the dialect of the country that they come from. Feel free to correct me. He is currently 9.2 seconds in behind. We've got Eric's Racing Slim back in the wheel. Also started the race for the Eric's Racing team here in that GTR, and currently sitting in 9th position. We've got Tom Fear out for Raw Talent Racing, number 20 BMW here, currently sitting in 10th place, and that's going to put Jacko out for the AHR BMW here as well in 11th place currently. Should see our back half of the field coming out here fairly shortly, within the next few minutes, as of course some of these teams are possibly a lap or more down at this point in the race for mechanical failures, crashes, mistakes, penalties, whatever the case may be. Some drivers, some teams finding themselves on the back foot here a little bit as they try to continue to catch back up in the race. So we've seen some interesting things, and so far in the first third of our race at this point now, it's been very interesting. So welcome in everybody that's just getting into the broadcast here. We got the fresh stream all up and running for everyone. I am GT45 Gaming, and I'll be your host here for the next couple of hours, and right back at it here on track with our team. So we got Ross Storm in 12th position here. He's in the Project Platypus Mercedes. I love the Project Platypus name, by the way. And it's the only Mercedes here in Daytona in a split 1. Struggling a little bit here today as the Mercedes is a little bit off the beaten pace, but where a car may be weak, it will be much stronger than the other cars potentially at other tracks. So we can't really determine how well a car manufacturer is going to do in this series based off of the first race of the season, and especially on a track like Daytona where this is a high-speed based racetrack. The only time you're driving slow is partially through the infield, and other than that, it is pedal to the metal here. So it is obviously going to favor the cars that have the big motors, the big exit speed, and the big top end. The more balanced race cars that are more designed for a little bit of everything on a racetrack may struggle here at Daytona a little bit, but will excel on several of these racing tracks coming up here in the season in 2025. And we're just waiting for our 14th place driver, RA's Honor here, to take the helm for that final Race Asylum GTR. So we are moving and grooving, and as we pass over the 8-hour mark here, let's do a little race recap. Sector 7 Esports qualifying in pole position here after a very intense qualifying run yesterday, and getting through the first qualifier, making it to the Super Pole qualifier, and absolutely just laying down a time of 142.7 or 6. I can't even. I think it was 7. Very, very fast, and this team has been very persistent and dominant here so far throughout the first 8 hours of this race. They have hardly made any mistakes, and as you can see, they have a gap on the field of almost a minute at this point here, 8 hours in. So much like in the 2024 season with our defending champions ORT, it seems right now early on in the season that the Sector 7 Esports team, the number 5 Lexus, is on everybody's radar just like that. We have Esports Race Asylum's Mike up behind the wheel of that Corvette, the 44 Corvette here for the Esports Race Asylum team, and they have done a great job here so far early on in this C7 Corvette. They started in 5th place at the beginning of this race, and it was ERA's Evil at the helm of the car in stint number 1, and did a great job at moving them up the field. It got into a little bit of penalty trouble, but since then the pilots that have taken over for each other have really dialed in this car, the team behind the scenes obviously, and they are doing the best they can now to try and answer the Sector 7 Esports number 5 Lexus at this point, but having a very strong race and up 3 positions from the race start, sitting 2nd overall here currently in our race. We've got our Labs Dino here in Loose Moose Racing. This team started somewhere in the mid-pack of the field. I'm not exactly sure where it was. and the drivers over the last couple of stints have done an amazing job of putting this team in a very comfortable position here currently in the final podium position. It is one of 2 Aston Martin V12 Vantages on the field here this season in Split 1, and is shown to be very strong here at Daytona. 11 seconds ahead of Stig right now from the Sector 7 Boomers team, which we'll go and check on here in just a second's time. And then we go down to the second of 3 Sector 7 teams here in Split 1 this season. And we got Stig behind the wheel. He's a good driver. And currently sitting in 4th place. He's in no man's land right now at the 8-hour mark. He's got 11 seconds in front of him to catch up to Dino. And he's got about 17 seconds to ERA's King Ears with Team Grid Life and the Lexus behind chasing at the moment. It's been a very solid race for the Aston Martin V12 Sector 7 team here. And has been as far up as 3rd place at some points here in the race. I believe they started in 2nd position here. Moving down the field, we have Team Grid Life here, the number 3 Lexus. This is started in 9th position here on the grid and have just been chipping away here. Has been as far up as 3rd place at one point in time in the early part of the race, and finds themselves currently sitting in 5th place, about a lap and a half down from the race leaders, and 17.2 seconds is the current gap to Stig in the Sector 7 Boomers Aston Martin up ahead, and he's got a solid 3/4 of a minute to our defending champions ORT Neo in 6th place, which we're going to go check on here now. The number 1 car, and rightfully named so, our defending champions from 2024 Team Overboost Racing Team. Same lineup as last season. The field has just gotten much stronger, and the BMW is clearly not one of those cars that is doing well here at Daytona. This BMW, from my own personal testing for our team in Split 2 coming in a few weeks' time, told me that the BMW is going to be very strong on most of these circuits this season, but this one was definitely one of the weaker tracks for the car. It's just not suited for the way that this particular car is built. However, with that being said, having the BMW up in the top half of the field, it is the top BMW out of the 3 on the grid here today. So they are doing a fantastic job, and it is also notable that they started right behind Team Grid Life in 10th position here coming into the race today, and are currently sitting up in 6th place. So also very fast and good movers here this season. You can see they're about to go a lap down actually here to Sector 7 Esports Racing's number 5 Lexus, our overall race leader. Continue on down through the field. Here's a recap each team's races so far, the best I can. I've been around the whole race, been checking out sights and sounds, and getting some intel from behind the scenes, and just doing commentator things. But we have Prima GTR here in the his name confused me. Prima GTR in the Sector 7 Racing Cougar team. Lexus in the 3rd of the 3 Sector 7 teams on track. The 64 car here, and it's been a fairly uneventful race for these guys. I mean, it's not that they haven't had any issues or anything like that. They have just been putting in their laps like the rest of these teams have here, and currently just a little off the pace of the overall race leaders, and 11 seconds in behind the defending champion car, ORT BMW right now. Continuing through the field here, we have Geli. I really hope I'm saying that right. Some of these are very hard to figure out, not knowing, of course, the dialect from each of the countries and each of the languages spoken in those countries. So I do apologize if I'm butchering your name. It's not my intention. From GT Finland Racers. Now, they are new this season. However, I have been privileged enough to see these guys race in this style of racing in other championships as a broadcaster. So I do know a little bit about the GT Finland Racing team, and they are a very strong team. This is none of these teams in Split 1 are a joke. So, I mean, this championship is up for grabs, and I think it's going to go down to, I really do think it's going to go down to the final race of the season, much like we've seen last year. Each car has its strength and its weakness, and those cars are going to show those strengths and those weaknesses from track to track. So that is going to make somewhat of a difference for some of these teams as the season progresses. And again, it's been a fairly uneventful race. They've had some hard battles, some very good hard-fought battles here throughout the first 8 hours of the Daytona 24 hours here, and they're currently sitting in 8th place. So I mean, they're just nibbling at the top half of the field. They're 12 seconds in behind it. He's got about a 10-second gap to Eric's Racing Slim. jump over to the Eric's Racing GTR here. Very great design on that car. Very simple. Just a very clean, color coordinated car here. Also a finished driver here in behind the wheel right now. He started the race for this team, had a pretty good stint, and again, for the most part, a fairly uneventful race for them. They've had some good battles as well, and just currently, continuing to run their laps, run their paces, and try to find a way to start to gain on the teams in front. And he's got 9.8 seconds right now, so holding strong in behind our 8th place driver, and he's got 13-second gap on the 10th place driver, Tom Fear. So Raw Talent Racing, BMW M6 here in 10th place, and getting a blue flag waved as our esports race asylum car, the 44 Corvette, is closing in here. So we'll just stick with this and talk about the blue flag here. So we're actually just passing a blue flag zone here, but it's up to the drivers and the spotters and behind the scenes to kind of determine when this needs to be given up. So I do suspect that we're just going to see Mike really just grab some slipstream here on this BMW and probably just do the old slipstream slingshot engage kind of routine. And again, he's not perfectly close enough yet to really make that move either at the same time. He is starting to close in here, and I guess, are we going to see Raw Talent Racing give it up leading into the Le Mans chicane, now obviously recently named Le Mans chicane, and a great history lesson on why, of course, that name changed here at Daytona from Evo earlier on there in Stint 4. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Evo and our head steward here, Splurge, for the absolutely very educational and very well-mannered commentary in stint number 4. I was really dialed into what they were talking about, and I thought that they really hit the nail on the head with everything they were talking about. So just much love to our co-hosts and our co-broadcasters here in the booth. They're really doing a great job here so far today. But Raw Talent Racing has been a little bit of a tough race for these guys to start the season off. It is a new team here this season as well, so a little bit of preseason nerves. You see the grid that you're up against, and maybe a couple little mistakes has set them back a little bit here. They're a couple laps down at this point, and 14 seconds in behind Eric's Racing currently. We have the AHR team here, the Apex Hunter Racing team. Jacko behind the helm, behind the wheel right now. I believe it was James that started the race for this team here today. And unfortunately for AHR, an early incident, some early damage, had to make an early pit stop, and they've been kind of just trying to track back up the field since. They do have themselves back up into 11th position right now currently, and 11.7 seconds in behind the 10th place Raw Talent Racing BMW. So putting in the work right now. They got their heads down, and they're just doing everything they can to put in good, clean, consistent laps. With that being said, though, I do believe we have a very potential battle developing here. This live timing is just giving me some grief, unfortunately, here in the stint, and that's just a byproduct of the game. But our Project Platypus team, racing team, Mercedes here, is trying to track down Jacko, and it's about a 3 to 5 second gap right now currently, based off of how much space is between the two cars without the live timing telling us a story, give or take, and 22 seconds up in behind. And really, it's been a fairly uneventful race for this team from what I've seen so far. I think that the car is just struggling here at the track a little bit to stay on pace with the rest of the cars in the field here today, and I think really it's just trying to get that car dialed in to get a little more speed out of it. Our number 45 car, our last minute racing team here, suffering a major mechanical failure in their GTR in stint number 3, I believe it was. And they got that car back into the garage. Mechanics did what the mechanics do best, man. They ripped that thing apart. They got the problem figured out. They got this car back together, and they got it back out in for the next stint. And they did suffer a time loss penalty due to the procedures within the series on disconnect, or mechanical failure, as I like to call it. So they ended up losing about 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes of time, based off of when they had to park the car and get it prepared for the next stint if possible. So they're on the back foot right now. You hate to see it. You hate to see incidents like that. This team was competing. They were in the top half of the grid and doing very well, and now we find themselves about 3 laps down. However, they do have some very talented drivers in the paddock here to pilot this car, so the potential for them to gain some time back and potential positions is still there. But again, it's just much of the same scenario for some of the teams in the back half of the grid here today, just facing a little adversity, and sometimes as a racer and a team, it's good to get that out of the way early on in the season, because you just shake that out of your system and it's just all focus for the rest of the season. So some of these teams that might feel like today's a wash and it's a bust and oh, what a disaster, just think of it this way: you got rid of it, it's gone, you know. Now it's game on for you guys. All these teams that have had those struggles here today, you're facing your adversity early, where some of these teams aren't going to face it till later on in the season, and that could be a difference maker depending on how late in the season that some of these teams obviously need to face that adversity. So is it a disadvantage to have a bad race? Not necessarily. It's what you learn from that race and what went wrong, and how to try and sort it and avoid it for the next time. And when you start to look at it that way as a team and as a group of racers, you guys just get together, debrief it, break it down. You'll come back even stronger in the next racing round. So never ever think that is a complete waste, because every second you're behind the wheel of these cars, every millimeter of track that these tires are rolling is very valuable experience and time behind any car that you're in, and you can't put a price on experience. You just can't do it. So just think of it that way. For our racers that have had a tough start here this season, it is a long season, and this race is far from over. Sector 7 Esports Racing Team here in the lead. We're just going to catch up with Chad here as we went through a very lengthy grid walkthrough there. Does he have water? Love it. Hope everybody's doing well. Again, welcome in from wherever it is we're watching, and let us know where you're watching from. We have racers from all over the world taking part in this 24 Hours of Daytona here at the International Racing Organization, so we're always very interested to see where the viewers are also viewing from. We assume that you are coming from all over the world, cheering on your favorite racers here in the series as well. So let us know where you're viewing from. And also, if you're new to the stream, welcome in. We appreciate you. We hope you like what you see. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you have done so already, absolute legends. And at the end of the day, no matter how it is that you're viewing or how you support the channel and the series, we appreciate all your support. And on behalf of the International Racing Organization, thank you to everybody who's watching here today. All right. Let's go see what we see. The grid is very spread out right now, so it is a little unfortunate, but we're not surprised. We're also in the nighttime stints here. We are going to see night conditions for the next few hours, 6 to 7 hours before the sun starts to rise again. That's going to change the racetrack as well. It's going to cool the track down. It may settle the wind down. It may pick the wind up, but the cars like these cool temperatures. The cars don't overheat as easily, and they stay more in an optimal range with some cool air coming in through those front hood scoops. And with that being said, though, it tends to make the track a little bit of a slipperier surface. It does cool the track surface down, and that does mean that the tires take a little bit longer to kind of settle in underneath of a race car, and it could be very simple to make a smaller mistake or a larger mistake just due to the fact that the tarmac temperature is down probably a good solid 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit at this point in the race. In the dead of heat, you will see this track temperature anywhere between 33 to 40 degrees on any given hot sunny day. So in the cooler temperatures, we definitely expect to see that temperature drop down to, you know, anywhere between really 18 to 24 degrees Fahrenheit, I think, or Celsius, pardon me, not Fahrenheit, Celsius, funny numbers. So track temperature makes a difference on how the pace of the race is going to be and how the car performs on the racetrack as well. So the drivers that are taking on the next 3 to 4 stints of racing here are going to be in some of the more difficult racing conditions because A, it's dark. It might be a little bit harder to see those points, especially if you're battling, especially if you have somebody very close behind you. You've got the glare of headlights in your mirrors, and in these race cars you don't have a lot of range of motion and you don't have a lot of visual. You have your 2 little side mirrors on the car. If I can get into the right view, this is what they get to look at. They can see that. They can see that, and they can barely see that. Now, my range of motion on my joystick, to show you guys or give you guys that example, is much more drastic than what these drivers can actually see. These drivers are wearing a Hans device, and that is a device that is connected to the helmet, connected to the seat, and strapped in underneath the 5-point safety racing harness that these drivers have to use to keep themselves properly and safely secured in these race cars at these dangerous speeds. So in reality, their vision point really is, oh, okay, I see him there. A quick little glance up. Oh, I see him here. And if you're lucky, you can get your head turned enough to see that right mirror. That's it. That is the range of motion these drivers have in these race cars, with all the safety equipment that is mandated and required by the International Racing Association. That's worldwide. That is everywhere. Every type of racing you see that's sanctioned in a sanctioned body racing organization, it is mandatory equipment to have in race cars. So it's very difficult to manage nighttime conditions for multiple factors and reasons. All right, we got Stig here, 20 seconds in behind. King Ears is closing the gap up here to Stig. So we may be seeing a battle brewing here over the next 10, maybe 15 minutes at the pace at this time seems to be dropping. We're going to see Stig have to let Mike through from Esports Race Asylum here, and just opts to stay out on the outside edge of the Western Horseshoe, and Mike just tucks right on inside on the racing line and gets that job done. We touched on this in stint 1 about the blue flags, but there is specific blue flag zones where it's ideal to let the race lap traffic through. However, that's not always the case depending where they catch up to you, and obviously you don't want to hold that traffic up for any longer than necessary, but at the same time it's also the responsibility of that lead lap car to do it safely. So in that case, that was very well communicated, very well understood by both the drivers involved in that blue flag situation, and because of that it was done very quickly, cleanly, and efficiently. So it does not need to be done in that blue flag zone, but it does need to be done very predictably and safely, and that was a prime example right there between Stig and Mike from Esports Race Asylum on how you deal with blue flags outside the blue flag zone. Very little time lost there. Overboost Racing, our defending champions here, currently sitting in 6th place. They got a big hill to climb here right now. They're 48 seconds from Team Grid Life in 5th place, and they've got about 8 seconds to the good right now on our 7th place team, Sector 7 McCougar team here to Lexus. So Prima GTR behind the wheel here and has been doing a pretty good job at trying to close up that gap on the Overboost Racing team, but like Splurge and Evil touched on here about an hour ago, I guess, the one thing we definitely know that is guaranteed out of the Overboost Racing team is just straight consistent speed of these guys. They're not going to get any faster, they're not going to get any slower, but if you want to catch up to them, you're going to have to pick your pace up, because they're going to continue to put the same lap within a tenth of a second apart from each other pretty much for the whole time that they're on the track, no matter what pilot is behind the wheel of their car. So it is a tough task, but you can see Prima GTR here doing a pretty good job. 7.7 seconds currently, and closing slowly but surely over the 6th place drivers here. And so we're keeping our eye on a couple of battles here right now. We got a potential battle for 4th and a potential battle for 6th starting to potentially brew up here on the racetrack. We love to see it. We got Jali here. Jali. I'm gonna go with Jay. Yeah. Full aero mode. That's it, pitting the back. Yeah. Ooh, half-second track limit infraction here for Eric's Racing Slim. You hate to see it, that's just cost you 3/4 of a second to a second, depending on how quickly you get back the car back up to speed. But that is a tough spot to have to take a penalty here. And again, our track official stewards here at Daytona, they're ruthless. They do not miss a thing. So they are very keen on making sure that the drivers keep it right and tight around this racetrack and are not taking liberties in the spots where drivers will typically attempt to take liberties to gain a half a tenth or a tenth through a corner. And Jackal for the AHR Racing team here, BMW M6, looking pretty good here right now. He's got 21 seconds to the Eric's Racing team. He is not sure if he's gaining or not there, but Tom Fear here in 11th place is gaining on Jacko here. So it's going to be a battle of the BMWs here potentially as well in 10th place. So we do have some battles potentially brewing here on track. We've got Ross Thorm here. He is currently sitting in 12th place for Project Platypus Racing. We've got Lemony Squeeze, which is also a great name, by the way, here in 13th position for the Last Minute Racing 45 GTR. Tough race here for them today, but again, facing that adversity early, getting it out of their system, could be very beneficial to them moving forward in the series here in RA's honor as well. In 14th position here, the 77 GTR struggling a little bit here at Daytona today, but that car's still on track and these drivers are still putting in their paces, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. So RTR, do they have damage? I do not believe so. Okay, there. No, car looks good. Nice and clean. Definitely nice and clean. So how is the chat doing? I know I get going here and I forget to check the chat, so I apologize. I mean, we love our viewers here 100% of the way, but the race unfortunately is just a little bit spread out right now. I mean, that's endurance racing. That's the way it is going to happen. And as this race continues to go on, the teams are going to modify strategies to close gaps up. If this season is any indication of what last season was, we are going to see right to the line battles for position at the end of this race. It might not seem like that right now, but endurance racing is a vicious beast. Anything can go wrong. The more that drivers run multiple stints, the potential for fatigue starts to set in, and fatigue can create mistakes. The drivers that run stints also need to get into the paddock, and they need to get rejuvenated. They need to refuel their bodies. They need to get proteins. They need to get electrolytes. They need to fuel back up, get some good H2O into their system, and get some rest. Even though that is not exactly something that's easy to do at the racetrack, and for the racers, they got all that adrenaline flowing through them, and all that testosterone flowing through, and it's exciting and it's hard to let go of it. But as a racer, you really do need to take care of yourself, even in sim racing, because it's not an easy task either. It's very physically demanding to be perfect around 14 corners 69 times before you get to hand the car over to the next driver. And if you're doing 2, 3, 4 stints, that adds up on the muscles, that adds up on the brain, it adds up. So it's very important for the racers, the drivers, to be making sure that they're taking care of themselves as well, physically and mentally, because they're no joke. These are grueling races. We have Mike here in second position, and minute 24 to third place here, so big gap to that third place car right now, and is maintaining that 48-second gap to I'm not even going to try and pronounce our French mate's name here up in the Sector 7 Racing Esports car. That one I'm going to butcher 100%, so we're just going to leave it at that. But you know, doing a great job at not allowing the number 5 Lexus to open the gap up any further. That's important, especially as the race grows on. That team is definitely going to be trying to close that gap, so at least maintaining that gap is not a loss. That's not more time to have to make up in the next set of stints. So right now doing a really great job at managing that distance to the race leader. We have Dino here. He's, like I said, a minute 24 in behind our third place driver, and is also a lap down here. So I think potentially our first and second place drivers are currently the only 2 cars here on the lead lap. Ooh, that's pretty quick. That's pretty early in the race. Where is Slim? 9th place. Eric's racing Slim in GTR here. Number 7 GTR that is, currently sitting in 9th place. And I mean, again, the team really hasn't had any crazy moments, I don't think, so far in the first 8 hours of this race, that I'm aware of anyways. Just doing their thing, man. They've got their team strategy, they're putting in their laps, they're putting in their pace, and they're doing the absolute best they can right now to close the gap. And I mean, a just kind of looking ahead and behind here, you cannot see that next positional car anywhere nearby, unfortunately. So kind of in the middle of no man's land, but that's not necessarily the worst place to be this part of the race. You have clean racing air, you have no pressure, you can just lock in and essentially try to run qualifying laps. And now you've got a driver that is a lead lap car in front of you. You've got a little bit of slipstream help here potentially. You know, how long can Slim hang with Stig here in the Sector 7 Boomers car? The Aston Martin up ahead here. There's a big question. Aston Martin has been proven to be very quick in the big power sections here at Daytona, so I think it'll be a little tough for the BMW to keep up, but or the GTR to keep up out of the exit. But on the top end, that car should be able to stay close enough, depending on the run that, of course, he gets in behind the Aston Martin. Head back up to our race leaders here and continue rolling through our grid. I know that viewers like to see the live timing. I know a lot of the teams are tuning into the stream to get any bits of information that they can get from it to relay back to their teams. Live timing is a big thing, just to confirm that what they're seeing is what they're seeing. And sometimes those commentators forget, and we give up little tidbits, you know. So it pays attention to pay attention, you know. So 5.9 seconds is that gap now to Ears here from Team Grid Life. So King Ears is slowly but surely chipping away at that what was 17-second gap at the driver swap. So he chewed 12 seconds out of Stig in the Sector 7 Boomer Aston Martin up ahead here, and at this pace right now, depending on how the pit stop sequence goes, we could potentially see a battle for this position before I want to say lap 40. Prima GTR and ORT is Neo here as well, still separated by about 7 seconds, so the gap really hasn't changed much. Prima seemed like he was chipping away at the BMW up in front here, but in ORT fashion, it seems like they realize that, hey, okay, the driver behind me is starting to chip away here, so we're just going to slightly step it up and make sure that that gap no longer starts to close, and that's exactly what we're seeing from Neo right now. And you can see he opened that up a half second just heading into turn number 1 there. So pace management and pace control right now is very important for all the teams. The middle part of the race is always about the strategy. It's never about the sheer pace sometimes. The pace comes from how you set up your driver schedule, and obviously each team has a certain way they like to set up their schedule, and you know, you have some teams that have a mixture skill level of drivers, so you try to balance out your fast-paced drivers that are going to potentially make up time or hold a gap to drivers that are potentially going to bleed a little time away through their stint, right? So it's a delicate balance, and that does ultimately can make a difference too as well. And I mean, you don't know what the other teams are doing for their driver schedule, so it's really hard to pair your best driver up against that best driver to try and do exactly what I'm saying, trying to eliminate bleed loss or time loss, because you maybe put a lower skilled driver in compared to the competitor you're chasing down. So there's so many different variations that happen in endurance racing that's going on behind the scenes at any given time. I mean, one wrong call could make or break your race, and the right call could absolutely change everything. So it's very interesting to see the dynamics of how the teams opt to handle the race, and as the race progresses, you will start to see some of these teams potentially change up their strategies to try and make up time. So we're at that point of the pit window, and I was paying attention to that. That's why I figured we better come back to the front end of the pack here, and just as I suspected, we do see a pit stop coming, and it is from our overall race leader here. The fastest lap of the session currently right now is a 1:43.3, but the overall fastest lap is still held by Sector 7 Esports number 5 Lexus, and that was done in stint number 1 by ERM's Antonio, and it was a 1:42.827. Now, Distinct Simon got very close in, I believe it was stint number 2 or 3. He had a 42.9 at one point there, but it is still currently held by our overall race leaders as the fastest lap of the race, currently almost 9 hours in now. Alright, and with that pit stop, that now puts Mike only I'm waiting for this to settle out because I want to see if there's a gain or a loss here in time, right? This is an undercut style strategy coming from our Sector 7 Lexus and our race leader. And it looks like the gap has settled down to about 8.3 seconds, so that we're going to note that that time, and then we'll wait for Mike to make his pit, see what that gap is when they come back out. It was 48 seconds as before the esports number 5, Sector 7 number 5 esports, the number 5 Lexus car. Let's just go. We're stumbling over our words here. See what that gap is afterwards. So was the undercut the right call, or is it going to be the overcut that's going to be the right call here? And so already we're starting to see some varying and variances in the strategies that have been very consistent here so far today. The gap is still about 5.4 seconds between Stig and King Ears, so Stig has leveled out the pace with King Ears at this point and is now just managing that at a very measly 5 seconds. It's not really a lot of time here at Daytona. One wiggle, one missed exit, a half-second track limit penalty turns that 5 seconds into 3.5 seconds real quick, and then that is that's like a dog with a raw steak dangling in front of him, and he's drooling, and he wants it, and he wants it now. So that changes the driver sometimes, and it puts him into a whole different zone. So it's a dangerous spot for Stig right now. I feel if he lets King Ears get within that 3.5 second mark, King Ears goes into straight attack mode. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. We'll have to wait and see. But Mike coming into pit lane here now. We also have Dino from Loose Moose Racing in pit lane here, our third place car. So all of our race leaders have made their pit stops here now, and we'll just be waiting for the rest of the field to cycle through their pit stops as well. We have seen heavy two-stop strategies from the majority of the teams here so far this race, and I believe the only team that was operating the one-stop strategy, and I'm not sure if they have continued on that strategy at this point, was the GT Finland Racing Corvette. So it's been interesting to see how that one stop is comparing against the two stops as well. All right, so what's the gap? Dead straight 48 seconds. Absolutely zero time gained or lost by first or second place. Flawless pit stops by the racing crews. If I'm the drivers behind the wheels of these cars right now, you're definitely giving props to your crew, because zero time loss right there for the esports races Island team in that pit stop, and that is very crucial at this point in the race for them right now in second place. So absolutely great stop from both those teams, getting their drivers out in very good form. And Stig here is going to currently sit in third place, but that will change with the sequence of pit stops here. King Ears is 4.9 seconds in behind Stig currently, and I mean, we are entering this pit stop sequence, so it's going to be very interesting to see where these two drivers flex out on each other here after that sequence of pit stops. Loose Moose Racing's Dino, who was the third place driver when the sequence started, is currently sitting in fifth, but as the rest of the drivers make their pit stops, we will see the field kind of sort back out exactly into position where they were most likely, because there is some pretty decent gaps between some of the teams here. Got blue flags waving for Project Platypus here. I'm not sure who it is. It is their second place driver here, the 44 Corvette, pardon me. We got a Lundy Squeezy here, and just giving it everything they've got. They're giving it everything they got right now. There's no quit in any of these teams, and we love to see that. And there's much of the same last season as well. So we suspect, barring any major catastrophic mechanical malfunctions, that we'll see 14 cars finish this race here today as well. Let's go back to this. This is a battle. That's not really a battle. It's not a battle for position, but hey, it's a car passing a car, so we'll dig it. Mike getting around Project Platypus Mercedes there, and nice and clean blue flag protocol there. I mean, this is a split one. You expect to see nothing less out of this split. Every single one of these racers that are piloting the cars in this in the top split are, if they're making those simple little mistakes, and then there's obviously another reason behind it. So these guys know what they're doing. They really know what they're doing. For all our split 2 teams and racers are probably, I would imagine, very intently tuning into this race to see how their strategies and how their lap times are comparing to split 1 right now. I know for a fact that is definitely happening. Pay very close attention to the blue flag protocols that we've also seen here in the race today too as well, because now we are going into a lobby that I'm not going to say is an experience, because that is a false statement. We're going into a lobby in split 2 that is a lot of guys that barely, and I mean barely, missed the cut for this top split, and then there's kind of the rest that are just average paced teams and racers. So it's going to be an interesting split, to say the least, because there's definitely a skill gap there. But the rules are the same. Split 2 gets no special treatment. It is same rules, it's the same conditions, and the only thing that's really going to change is the weather, essentially, because the races are on different weeks, and because our weather model is based off true real-world weather at the track just a couple days before race day. That weather is important. Right? So we can see 2 completely different races from split 1 to split 2, from round to round as well, because of the dynamic weather model and the accurate weather tracking that we use here at International Racing Organization to keep it as true to what is going on at the time in the real world at that moment on the racetrack. We are limited, obviously, to some extent based on the time of year we're running certain track combos. It might not, it might be winter time around that racetrack, but we make those adjustments to the mods, the admin staff here at International Racing Organization, make those adjustments to come up with potential outcome of the weather for the race. Now, it is still random, so I mean, it really is unpredictable, always in a large part of the stint, but it does need to start on accurate real-time weather and end on accurate real-time weather in order to make it all work true and right to the way that the game operates. So it is a logistical series. There's definitely some heavy logistics that go on behind the scenes. Like, even Dino here for Loose Moose Racing, same thing to their pit crew. It didn't skip a beat. Exactly the same distance in behind eSports Race Asylum right now with that Loose Moose Aston Martin. I got to tell you, all these teams really have seemed to come prepared for this race today in all fronts, whether it be behind pit wall as a crewman, or whether it be a driver behind the wheel, or whether it be your crew spotter and crew chiefs on the headset looking at the computers, relaying all the information. But it is 27 seconds from Dino to Stig, and I mean, King Ears is at this point tracking now. 2 seconds away here from Stig, so definitely gain a little bit of time here, I think, in pit lane. And if it wasn't in pit lane, he is just sheerly outpacing Stig currently on the racetrack. So we'll have to wait and see how much longer it takes. I suspect it would be around lap 40 at the pace that was going on at the end of that last stint, but again, we're factoring in the drivers are running lower in fuel, the tires are starting to wear down, the cars aren't in their optimal condition necessarily, drivers may be sipping fuel a little bit. There's a lot of things going on. So 1.9 seconds gap right now. We got one of the teammates from the Grid Life team saying it was very close on pit exit when they exited pit lane there, so that would explain why the gap is very close. So I guess we'll have to wait and see here. We're definitely keeping our eye on this right now, because this is pretty much the closest thing I think we have to an immediate battle here for position. I mean, 8 seconds separating Neo and Prima GTR, and I believe there was a potential battle ensuing back here somewhere, but I think that has since fizzled out. We do have little Lemony Squeeze coming in for his pit stop. This is a scheduled pit stop, and boy, taking it right to the fuel limit there was that driver. I tell you what, it was awfully close. Alright, so current fastest lap of the stint is eSports Race Asylum's Mike. is a 143.326, and that is precisely 0.499 seconds off the overall fastest lap of the race here so far, put down by the number 5 Lexus team in stint number 1. So very early lap too as well. I was within the first tire stint of the race, as a matter of fact, as well, if I'm not mistaken. And almost looked like the Sector 7 Lexus there just missed the invisible wall. We've seen that wall already get one victim here today with the AHR team in a side-by-side battle heading into turn 1. Just took a nice tight line into the corner to give space to the other driver and just caught that invisible wall, and it just ping-ponged him out into the Corvette there. So it's just the unfortunate reality of the track and the way it's designed in the platform we're sim racing on, and there's a wall that sticks out basically in front of the tire barriers that we can see that's invisible, but it sticks out a little bit further than the tire barriers does, and if you get just a little too close, it's a death sentence. It can just absolutely wreck your race car in a heartbeat, and unfortunately for the AHR team, that's exactly what we've seen happen. I think it was AHR. It was either them or Project Platypus car. It was one of those two colored cars. I'm pretty sure though it was AHR. What do we got going on here? We got King closing back in. We obviously wanted to come back to this. We got lap traffic in the middle of it all too as well. We've got 9th place driver Eric's Racing Slim in between King Ears and Stig right now. So King is probably going to be wanting to get around Slim very quickly here to not lose any unnecessary time to Stig up ahead there, and that is definitely the case. He's going to get the job done before we head into the Western Horseshoe here, and obviously a great conceded position there from Slim as well. Just give a little lift there, just enough time to allow the Lexus number 3 Grid Life Lexus car to get through before the braking zone of the corner, so we could properly set up his corner and everything. So again, just top level navigation from these split one drivers here all race day long so far. It's been fantastic clean racing. We can take a look at Prima. Absolutely, heading to our 7th place driver here, our Sector 7 Racing the Cougar team here in the Lexus. And again, it's been for the most part, fairly uneventful race for these guys. I don't think they've really gone too wrong in the race. I don't think they've had any real large mistakes. They've had some good battles on the racetrack in the early part of the race, and I mean, they're just putting in their laps right now, but they are starting to slowly but surely chip away at the defending champions Overboost Racing team, the BMW, up ahead. So that gap was about 8.3 seconds the last time I remember seeing that gap, just after the swap sequence, or the pit stop sequence, pardon me, and we're now down to 6.6 seconds. So the Lexus is on the move here and trying to track down our defending champions. It was us. It was us. It was HR. Yeah, I thought so, but sometimes I always try to stay up for the whole duration of these events as a broadcaster, because I like to stay in tune with what's happening throughout the race, especially if I'm doing multiple commentary stints like we are here today. So sometimes I get it confused. Sometimes I definitely get it confused, so appreciate that clarification. You know, we'll distract the race officials at the end of the race here today, sliders, and if you just want to take a sledgehammer out to the tire barrier there and just deal with that invisible wall, you know, we'll distract the race car, or the track officials for you guys, you know, just saying. Gap between first and second is 46.1 seconds, so a couple seconds gained here from the 44 Corvette on the number 5 Lexus here. So I mean, in the grand scope of things, not too much to really be worried about right now. It's only a couple seconds out of a 46-second gap, but if that starts to become a continuing trend over the next half a dozen to a dozen laps, then we'll have to see if the esports Lexus makes an adjustment on their pace, or if they just kind of allow the race to selling esports teams to just chip away at that, what we can call a very comfortable gap here right now at Daytona. And definitely a comfortable gap. So, I mean, Mike he's moving, he's pushing that Corvette to its limits. I mean, he is absolutely rocking it right now. And there we go. We're going to get back to this battle for 5th place here. So not sure if I'd be happy with the sledgehammer though. Just buy one when you get there. Alright, so Stig and King Ears here, and this is going to be a battle for 4th place. We knew that this was eventually coming here by just judged by the way that King Ears has been tracking in on Stig. So we should see some action here over the next couple of laps between these drivers, or do we see these drivers work together to try and close in on 3rd place? A couple of question marks here as King Ears starts to close in, but I mean it's very evident that King Ears has to pace over the 764 Aston right now. So I guess the bigger question is he okay with giving up a little pace to sit behind and push this driver, or is it just going to be ideal for him to find the spot, make the move, get in front, and either hope that that driver is thinking, well, maybe I'll just sit in behind and push King Ears, or is King Ears just going to say, yeah, I got pace on you, I'm just going to go? We'll have to wait and find out. But it's developing. So in the slip here as we head around the King, getting up to the start-finish line, and King Ears is going to swing high on the outside here, and he is going to look to try and take this position away from Stig there, and Stig slightly concedes it there. He realizes that King Ears had the position on the outside, so you see him just check up on the brakes just a hair more so he can tuck into the optimal turn-in line there, and he just tucks right in behind King Ears. And we do have Slim. It's just sitting there right there, just on the edge of the slipstream right now behind these guys as well. So Slim is taking advantage of what's happening in front of him here right now. That should gain him a little bit of free pace around the racetrack for as long as he can hang on to these guys for. Let's go see our situation here for 6th place too as well now, as we have seen King Ears take 4th place away from Sector 7 Boomers. Stig Xander, I believe is how that's pronounced. I mean, it is an X. So we do have Ortiz Neo here, and 5.1 seconds to gap to Prima GTR. So I mean, Prima he's putting in the work right now in that Lexus. I tell you what, he is pushing that car here to try and close that gap. And I mean, it's a shark smells blood in the water right now. He clearly thinks that he can catch him and get around him, and clearly the team has said go get him. So that's what we're looking at right now. So he is trying, and we'll have to wait and see if he can close that 5-second gap up. So we're definitely going to keep a close eye here on our 6th and 7th place drivers for a little bit. Let's go check out the rest of the field real quick here. We've got GT Finland Racing Team, the 66 Corvette, 17 seconds in behind that potential ongoing battle between Prima GTR and Ortiz Neo. And then about 30 seconds in behind him is the Ericsson Racing driver Slim, who we had mixed up in that battle for 4th place there, but did a great job at getting uninvolved with that battle and letting those drivers battle it out. And you can see Stig is still sitting right there in behind King Ears right now. Has not let King get anywhere, so potential strategy call there. Stig just let him finally go by. Okay, he got me here, that's fair, and now I'm going to use you. Could be what we're seeing there. We'll have to wait and see how that progresses. We got Jacko from AHR Racing here, and they are up into 10th place. They were in 11th at the beginning, so they have gained a spot. And I would assume that would be within that pit driver swap sequence that really helped them gain a little bit of time there as well. And Tom Fear was closing in on AHR here for a little bit, but now the gap is starting to open back up a little bit here, and Jacko's doing a great job at relieving a little bit of pressure in behind there from Tom Fear and the Project Platypus Mercedes. So doing everything they can with this car here. It seems like there's just don't quite have the car dialed in here yet today, and we'll have to wait and see if their engineers can figure out what to do with this car just to make it a little bit quicker. It's a tough car for around this track, based off my own testing as well. It was the Daytona was one of the determinations that actually dropped the Mercedes off of my short list. So it's just not strong here. It's just not the right track for this car right now. But I mean, they do have the ability to change the aero settings on these cars this year. The front wing the front clip and the rear wings, so that can make the cars definitely more comfortable, more manageable, and more navigatable around a racetrack, which will obviously relate to more speed. But I suspect that they just haven't dialed this car in yet, just based off the information that I have from my own testing. We have Lemony Squeeze here in the GTR, the 45 GTR, facing some huge adversity here. They did face a mechanical failure in stint 2 or 3. It cost them about 3 laps worth of time here on the racetrack by the time they got that car sorted and back out into the race. So they're doing everything they can to try and collect that time back, but they're just bleeding a little bit of time away here in this stint bit by bit to Project Platypus Mercedes up in front. And then we got RA's Honor here in our final Race Asylum entry here into Split 1, the 77 GTR. Been a tough race day here for these guys. They were involved in a little bit of an incident early on in the race, and they got them some damage, and they had to pit early on, and they've just been kind of chasing that back foot ever since. So giving it everything they got, and they currently have, I'm not sure who it is in behind them right now. It is actually Lemony Squeeze in behind them here right now, looking to overtake them and put them an extra lap in behind themselves as well. So this is kind of an important battle for, in a sense, even though it's not really a battle. Obviously, Honor is the blue flag car in this situation and will need to concede the position to the 45 car, but the 45 car still has to close in close enough to get the courtesy from Honor to get that position conceded as well. So I mean, it's not just oh, I'm here, give it to me. You know, they got to get close enough for that blue flag car to go, okay, nope, I got to concede the position here, and he is starting to close in. So unfortunately for Honor, this is a very important pass here for the 45 GTR, because this puts the 14 car a lap in hand behind them, so gives them a lot of wiggle room. Something they don't need to worry about for the rest of this race potentially is that car in behind. If they can get around them, then really it is trying to catch up to P12, who, I'm not sure what happened there. There was a moment here, something happened here to Project Platypus Mercedes. They had a larger gap over Lemony Squeeze than that, as we were talking about this potential blue flag situation here. There is about a good chunk of seconds dipped out of that gap and closing now. I can confirm there's no damage on the AMG Mercedes. However, I do feel like there was definitely a mistake made on track, a partial spin or a spin that has cost them some very valuable time. And for the 45 GTR, any glimmer of hope for this team right now is a win, and that is a glimmer of hope. Another position potentially to be gained after the tough start to the race here today. That's what a team needs to kind of get that momentum starting to shift back in their garage's favor. Momentum is a real thing. I mean, we see it all the time in professional sports. You see it in baseball, football, hockey, soccer, English football, rugby. I mean, every sport out there, you see that. I mean, the momentum can drive a team to straight victory. It's no different in racing. Momentum is so massive. The confidence in the garage, when you have momentum, becomes even stronger. The drivers become even more confident, and that confidence just exudes their skills behind the wheels. So W right now for last minute racing in that 45 GTR, having positional battle potentially brewing up in front of them here. So 44 seconds is the gap. So the determination right now, based off my question, is they're just going to slowly but surely continue to allow Mike to just chip away a little bit at a time at that gap. They have a very comfortable gap, so I mean, they're not by any means in panic mode here right now. They've obviously got their race strategy and they're sticking to it, and they've got their car in a very good position currently here in the race to do exactly that and stick to it. 13th position currently. They have just gotten around Honor, and again tracking in on that Mercedes AMG here, and I almost feel like the driver in behind the wheel of Platypus, Project Platypus Racing Mercedes, maybe a little bit rattled from whatever happened up ahead there a couple laps ago, or a lap ago. We're not sure, we missed it, but definitely gave up about half that gap that they had. We're about 3.5, almost 4 laps down currently. They lost a solid 2.5 laps due to the penalties, so it's been a tough day. It's been a tough day for the 45 car for sure. But I mean, it's not over for them. I mean, they've got 4.7 seconds to 12th place. We go up into 11th place here. But that gap is a little bit larger. There's about a lap there in between, so they definitely gonna have the work cut out for them to get up another spot from there. But I mean, we've got 14 plus hours of racing left to go here yet today, so it's definitely not out of the books for this team to gain positions. Much goes for the same for the 77 GTR, the Race Asylum GTR as well. I mean, this race is not over for them. I mean, it is not even halfway over here yet today, so anything can happen in front of them. And we've got our number 5 Lexus, our race leaders here, actually just making their way around Project Platypus Mercedes there. So moving and grooving, giving up a little bit of time here right now to that Corvette in behind. Mike is full taking advantage of the fact that they're just going to allow this time bleed and try to get as much of it back as they can for his next pilot. Dino here is 43 to 2. Losing a little bit of pace currently to Mike. He's probably about 1:40 down from the second place driver currently. Almost a lap at this point, if I'm not mistaken. So he has Loose Moose Racing has just navigated around the GT Finland Corvette there as a blue flag scenario and continues to track up the racetrack. So now it's Team Grid Life here in 4th place, grabbing a position a few laps ago there over Stig. 29 seconds in behind Dino. So I guess the question is, can they start to chew on that gap a little bit and start to try and track back towards that podium? You know, this team was a strong team last season. They were a top 6 contender in the 2024 season. They revamped the roster up a little bit, brought in some great drivers from all over the North American sim racing community. And the one thing I can definitely say about this team, and I know this team very well with the exception of King Ears, I don't know quite as well as the rest of the drivers that are on the team here. They're very consistent drivers, much like our defending champions. The one thing that we can guarantee we're going to see out of the number 3 team is very consistent laps. And we've seen that today, and that consistency has kept them up in the top 6 all day long, and they started in 9th place. So Team Grid Life is having a really good race here right now. They are up 5 overall positions from their starting point here at the beginning of the race today. We've got the Sector 7 Racing Boomers Aston Martin. This car was placed second in the grid, I believe, in qualifying. Yes, I think it was second, maybe third. Currently down a couple of positions, but showing that this team is very strong and they are far from out of this race themselves. We head down to 6th place here, our defending champions. So we're about midway through the stint here now. I'm just going to do a little walkthrough. Guarantee we're going to do it for Dale, brother. God bless. Hey, hey. The GOAT. So Ortiz Neo here, he is starting to give that time up a little bit to Prima GTR. So the Sector 7 McCougar team, that Lexus, he's tracking. I mean, Prima GTR all stint long has just been chipping away at that ORT BMW up ahead of him here. And I mean, we jump on board, you can see him. He's there. You can see that car up ahead. He is more than aware that that is a positional battle car up ahead there. Well, you can see a couple other cars up ahead of these guys. Those are going to be blue flag cars up ahead of the racers here. But, I mean, especially as you come through the Le Mans chicane here, I mean, boom, right there. Hello, that is the tail lights. That's what I like to see. So, I mean, it's game on here right now. And, again, momentum. You're starting to close the gap. You've been closing the gap all stint long, and now you can see that car. You're almost in striking distance. It's just an adrenaline push. Go get him. That's just what goes on in your mind. Let's go get him. All right, so we got Jeli here. He is in 8th place. He's got 20 seconds behind Prima GTR. He's got the blue flag flashing in his Ears here. It's our third place team, Loose Moose Racing, Aston Martin, looking to navigate around the Corvette here. But obviously the Corvette is a very strong, fast car here, especially on this banking area of the racetrack. So it'll take a couple of hot minute or a hot corner or two to for him to finally close in on that Corvette to get close enough to get the conceded position. But in the meantime, the Corvette is just going to keep moving and grooving, and we should see this position given up here within probably the NASCAR banking, if I had to guess. 33-second gap to our 9th place driver, Eric's Racing's Slim. Again, just in no man's land. Been doing a good job at continuing to open the gap back up to AHR's Jacko, who's holding down the 10th place position here right now in the grid, and he's only got 9.8 seconds to Tom Fear. Now that gap has stayed pretty consistent over the last, I would say 10 dozen laps, and Tom Fear was closing in on Jacko there for a little while, but that gap seems to have just settled in at about 9.5 to 10 seconds between the two drivers for the time being. We've got Ross Thorm and Lemony Squeeze here, and we talk about momentum. GTR smells blood, and the blood is Project Platypus Mercedes. So the 45 car going to try and get the job done here on lap 38, and a massive gain under braking here, and game on between the Mercedes and the GTR. Project Platypus goes semi-defensive there, just enough done to keep the line from opening up, and battle on here between 12th and 13th position, and it doesn't matter where the battle is in the grid, they're always good battles. So here we go in the slip. He's just settled in behind that Mercedes here right now, and this is a huge battle. Oh, and a big move right there for the GTR. A little bit of a miscue maybe on the understanding where that Mercedes was going to brake, or the Mercedes potentially was conceding the position there, and just that was reactionary, but a huge drop underneath the Platypus Racing team there, and that 45 GTR is going to find themselves now up into 12th place. So slowly but surely chipping away. Let's take another look at that. I just want to see what happened there. No, it was just looked like it was normal braking there from Project Platypus Racing there. I think that the GTR anticipated on coming in a little bit later under the brakes there, just to close that gap up a little more. And I think that the braking of Platypus's driver there just caught him out a little bit, but he was on it. He was ready for the reaction, and the gain was a position. So a little bit of a tense moment right there. That could have been a little bit scary for the two drivers, but I mean, split one. These guys know what they're doing. Handle that like a pro. All right. It's been a fairly uneventful stint here so far, hey everybody? I mean, quiet time of the race. It's nighttime here in Daytona as well, so the drivers are really just focusing on putting in great quality laps. The car is happy right now. The car is nice and cool. The car is loving this track right now. The tires, however, hard to say. I think once you get these tires up to temperature under these cooler conditions, the cars probably feel pretty good, but I think as the cars start to wear those tires down, especially the drivers that are being a little harder on their tires, trying to close gaps potentially, may beg to differ on the slipperier track surface. But overall, it seems like it's definitely not slowing the pace down in the lobby. I mean, Mike is at a 43.138, so a slight improvement on the fast lap by a couple tenths. That's been held for a while. So the cars seem to be doing quite well here on the racetrack. We've got King Ears here. He's got 30 seconds to Dino. I think that gap was a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller actually, the last time we checked, and Stig has closed in a little bit closer, so potential little mistake made here somewhere along the way by Ears, piloting the 5 Grid Life Lexus here. So our 774 Aston Martin Sector 7 team here, Stig, I mean, he's right there. He's hanging with King Ears, and like I said, maybe he conceded that position to try and just tuck in, save fuel, and use pit strategy for when they come in for their second set of pit stop here to try and gain time and leapfrog in pit lane. Not sure, but that's what I'd be thinking about behind the wheel right now. All right, we definitely got battle brewing here. We've got ORT's Neo in 6th place, and I mean, he's been slowly but surely giving up that time to the Sector 7 Racing Lexus in behind the 64 car, and that gap is down to 1.2 seconds here, so a little bit of lap traffic coming into play here, as we see Honor just getting navigated around here by our number 1 car. You can see he is going to now be in between himself, between Neo and Prima GTR. So Prima GTR is also going to have to navigate around these couple of lap cars, as well as they manage on. Project Platypus Racing there, realizing that the 6th place driver was there and just taking the outside line into the Western Horseshoe, allowing the number 1 car through. But now he's going to have to worry about the 64 car here as they're coming out of the left 90 into NASCAR 1 and 2. I would suspect that we're going to try to see the Sector 7 racing car here try to get around as quickly as possible, because you don't want to lose this BMW on the big straight here. You're definitely going to want to utilize the Lexus's power compared to that BMW in the top end to try and continue to close up that gap. So you can see that move done heading into the Le Mans chicane there from Prima GTR. Around Project Platypus Racing, and again, very great job by the AMG driver there to navigate those 2 lead lap cars through in a very good, safe manner, and not too much time lost there from any parties involved, and that gap is back down to his 2nd here. So maybe the timing of when he passed the Platypus Mercedes there also helped him gain some time with a little bit of slipstream, slingshot engage style passing there as well. So maybe that was the strategy here from the 64 Lexus, and I mean, it worked. It got him within 7/10 of a second of the 6th place driver Neo here in the ORT number 1 BMW. So battle on, and this is where we're going to sit here for a minute, because, well, this is a battle for position here on the racetrack, and we ain't going to miss it. Got Project Platypus closing in on the 14th place driver Honor there as well, so that eventually will turn into a blue flag scenario here as well, and behind our 6th and 7th place drivers. But our interest is most certainly on this battle for 6th place here overall right now. And I mean, it's 64 Lexus from the Sector 7 McCougar team here, absolutely putting in some hard-earned effort in stint number 5 here, and they've got themselves potentially into a fight for 6th place. So let's get it. Let's see it, boys. Let's see what you got. We love battles. Battles are what thrives us in the booth. Heading into the Le Mans chicane, only separated by about a car and a half right now are the 2 racers, and great run through the bus stop there from the 64 Lexus, and this should be enough to get into that slip and get this move done heading into turn number 1, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here. And ORT is going to try and break the slip early as they head up into the high banking of the racetrack there, and it's going to be side by side here as we come across the start-finish line. And the 64 Lexus now technically up into 6th place. Is the ORT BMW going to respond here and try to make the move into turn 1? No chance there, as it was covered off by the 64 Lexus either way. And I think that ORT is going to do much of the same as what we've seen from that 4th place battle when Stig got passed by years. I think the aim here is just to sit in behind and save a little bit of fuel here before the pit stop sequence. So with that being said, our race leaders in the pit lane here and grabbing some tires and some of that there good old racing petrol. All right, Mike is just in behind. He comes out just, and I mean just, in behind the race leader right there. So that gap is currently 3/4 of a second. It was about 8 seconds the last pit stop sequence between the 2 after the number 5 Lexus pits. So this is about an 8-second gain so far from pit stop 1 to pit stop 2 for Esports Race Asylum. So a good little chunk of time taken out of the race leaders here so far, but the 44 Corvette is going to have to make that pit stop here as well, and they are going to give that pit time back. We'll have to see how much time, though, they do give back. We have King Ears in 4th position here, 31 seconds now in behind Dino. So that Aston Martin is slowly but surely just opening up a little bit more of a gap, over that number 4, to the 4th place car, the number 3 Lexus, pardon me. I am tripping over my tongue in this stint. I'm sacked too if I keep this up, I tell you what. We got Sector 7 Boomers here in 5th place, car number 764, Stig behind the wheel here. He's been doing a great job managing the pace of this car here, and he's still got these guys up in the top half of the field here in this car. He did lose that position to King Ears in 4th place a little back, but still doing a great job, only 2.5 seconds in behind Ears currently. We've got our 3rd place driver from Loose Moose Racing now coming into pit lane here as well. Oh, we got a yellow flag up ahead, and who is in trouble here? Oh my, we got a stricken car, and oh, yeah, it looks like it is the Raw Talent Racing BMW there that was most certainly in trouble there, as a yellow flag was flashing in front of the 64 and number 1 cars there, so that could have been a little bit of a tense moment. You have to consider that there's a car potentially on the racetrack around the corner. Thankfully here at Daytona there was good open sight lines, and I'm sure there was great radio communication between the spotters and the race car drivers, so they knew exactly what was happening. But tense moments there for our 6th and 7th place drivers as they come around to a stricken racer making a bit of a mistake on the racetrack there. And we're going to head to the Raw Talent Racing car there and go take a look and see what we see. And we will confirm that there is some damage picked up on the Raw Talent Racing BMW here, but I'm not going to tell you what kind of damage. We got Lemony Squeeze in 12th place. Now that gap is 1 minute 53 seconds to Raw Talent Racing. Now, with that being said, they just picked up some damage. That means they are going to have to pit at some time to fix that damage. However, we're right there at the pit window for the 2-stop strategy. So I would assume that that car is just going to finish their stint, bring it in, and fix the car when it is a scheduled pit stop. Anytime now within the next couple laps, going to bleed away a couple seconds of free time to the 45 car in behind, but you still have a lap in hand. So at this point, I think right now the best case scenario for Raw Talent Racing after that moment on the racetrack is going to lose that lap cushion on the 45 car, but still have an overall minute plus gap on that car once they transition this pit stop sequence. You hate to see it, but hey, racing is racing. The drivers make mistakes. The cars do funny things sometimes. Cars break. When cars break in the middle of 160 miles an hour, I mean, lots of other things can be broken all of a sudden afterwards from the end result. So, par for the course over a 24-hour race. The cars, the drivers, the teams, the officials, everybody takes a beating throughout the process. So, you just gotta take it one step at a time, one roll of the tire at a time, you know. Nice moves for the win. Love that. Freebird intensifies. Just don't get spicy. Just don't get spicy, Lucas. Alright, so 39 seconds is now the current gap between Esports Race Asylum and Sector 7 Esports Racing Team. And right now it does appear that this race is going to be between those two cars. So we got a battle here between Ears and Stig. Mistake clearly made here by King Ears, and I mean these two are side by side as we head towards the Le Mans chicane here. And I guess the question is anybody going to give up here, or are we going to see a first 2x2 here through the Le Mans chicane? And no, Stig is just going to back it off a little bit, tuck back in behind the number 3 Lexus there, and not make it too wide through the Le Mans chicane. And actually we're going to see a push here from Stig on King. So a little bump draft going on here, and this is most certainly just due to strategy here. Obviously both these drivers are within their pit windows at this point, and not deciding to race into pit lane here, I guess. A little bit of a pull out there from Stig right at the line there, but Grid Life team number, the car number 3 definitely getting in just ahead there. So We've got Prima GTR, and they will be making a stop soon. ORT has made their stop. We've got GT Finland Corvette currently in pit lane, with Eric's Racing GTR also coming into pit lane here. AHR has made their pit. We have Tom Fear here in 11th position, also has made their pit. Lemony Squeeze has not, so they will see a pit stop here yet. Ross has made a pit, and Honor also still needs to make that final pit stop. So the majority of the field here has settled into that final pit stop and run to the driver swap. We love to see it. Alright, 39 seconds gap between first and second place, and we'll do a full walkthrough once we get the pit stop sequences out. Currently, right here is probably where you should really be paying attention to. So, pit stops are over. These drivers literally went into pit lane basically side by side, and they basically come out of pit lane side by side. With the differences, they're just nose to tail right now, and about two car lengths separating King Ears from Sticks. So this battle still ensues. Now both drivers are on fresh racing rubber, and with their desired amount of fuel in their racing cars. Any adjustments have been made to these cars and game back on. So half a second separating fourth and fifth place here currently, and we're going to sit with this for a minute and see if anything develops here early on on our fresh tires. We've got Eric's Racing just in behind, and we see the 45 GTR just in behind them as well. And a pretty quiet stint. We've seen a couple of good positional battles, nice clean battles, but for the most part it's each team just trying to find a way to gain position and gain time on the drivers in front, and in the case of our race leaders, trying to continue to open the gap up to the pack, chasing it behind. So nothing really happening here right now between these guys. After the pit stops of our number 1 BMW and our 64 Lexus here, it is a separation of 2.4 seconds. So Prima GTR has just opened up a small cushion over Team ORT there, and we'll have to wait and see if they continue to open that gap up, or if the ORT driver makes sure that gap does not get any bigger. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. The 66 Corvette here of Gély, the GT Finland racing team, is about 2 or 3 seconds in behind our current second place driver right now, and same car, C7 Corvette. So we got Eric's Racing Slim in 9th place here, 32 seconds to Gély, the GT Finnish racing team, and he's got a little over 30 seconds to the AHR BMW here, piloted by Jacko GT7 currently. We head down to 11th place. That gap is 21 seconds between 10th and 11th place here. And unfortunate for Raw Talent Racing, the BMW was starting to track back up the field a little bit here, and then had that moment in Western Horseshoe, and it gave some time away. So about roughly 15 seconds lost overall there to Jacko in front of, but most importantly, they've allowed the 45 GTR back on the same lap as them, and that time gap is only 50 seconds, so they gave up a significant amount of time to the 45 GTR of last minute racing, about 35 to 40 seconds in total there. So Lemony Squeeze has put in a massive stint here for last minute racing, has really come up huge for these guys, and not only that, he still has a pit stop here, so we will see that gap grow. I did not realize that all our drivers have not pitched yet, so we will see the 45 car come into pit lane here. However, that should be a shortened pit stop because they're going quite deep into this second tire stint, which means they're going to have to take less fuel on board, so that may help a little bit, but we're going to see another 35 seconds roughly of time loss for the pit stop, most likely maybe 40, which will put them at about a minute and a half in behind Tom Fear and Raw Talent Racing, which is about right for what I suspected they would gain in time with that incident from Raw Talent Racing's BMW driver just a few laps ago. Raw Storm here, Project Platypus Racing in Mercedes. A minute 16 in behind, let me squeeze right now, and it's been a tough day for that Mercedes, and it's been a tough day for the 77 GTR from Race Asylum here as well. But yeah, you know, you have your good days and your bad days on the racetrack sometimes, and again, like I said, it's good to get that adversity out of the way earlier in the season than later in the season, in my opinion. Alright, so 38.6 seconds is the gap here at the first and second place. Again, number 5 car doesn't seem to be too concerned about giving up a few seconds here in this stint right now to the ERA Corvette. Again, they still have a very healthy gap of 38 seconds. It's not a small gap. It would take a pretty big mistake from number 5 Lexus to give up that much time, knock on wood. We have Dino here in the 3rd position. He's actually getting waved the blue flag from the 2nd place driver right now. He's about to just give it up there. You see, he just lifted off the throttle right there on the back straight. Maybe gave up a little bit more time than he probably wanted to there, but safety always comes first on the racetrack, and that was a great call made there from Dino to allow Mike to get through before the Le Mans chicane. We got number 3 Team Grid Life here. They're currently sitting in 4th position, and the gap is 34.5 seconds to 3rd place. So slowly but surely, Dino is just opening up small increments of time per lap. I want to say maybe 2, maybe 3/10 of a second a lap right now, and that is slowly but surely allowing the gap just to grow a little bit to the 4th place Lexus here right now. So we'll have to see, and we'll keep our eye on that as the stint progresses. Again, Stig, though, I mean, he's still in this conversation here for 4th place. He's only 1.6 seconds in behind King, and he's not stressing, that's for sure. He's just chilling behind the wheel of that car right now, and he's just trying to get back into that slipstream range so he can essentially continue to save fuel and make up time. Maybe get the position back before they go to turn the car over to the next driver. So we got Prima GTR here, and slowly but surely chipping away at opening a gap to our defending champions ORT and their BMW in behind. So he's worked 2/3 of the stint essentially to close that gap up and grab that position, and has successfully done so. Now he's going to have to spend the last third of this stint to try and open that gap up, so when they hand the car over to their next scheduled pilot, they have a little bit of a room to work with to get settled into the car in their stint. So Neo here is 3.9 seconds in behind, and they're just bleeding time away, and that time bleed away is going to most certainly be in these higher speed sections on the racetrack. In comparison, the BMW just does not have it in the top end compared to obviously the GTR in front, or not the Lexus in front, pardon me. Prima GTR's name keeps confusing me. Eric's Racing Slim here in 9th place, 35-second gap to GT Finish Racer and Corvette up ahead, and 31-second gap to Jacko in the AHR BMW in behind. He's just chilling right now, and again, just trying to maximize clean air and run the best laps you can. That's all you can do when you're in this position at this point in the race, and hopefully you can use a little bit of strategy and tactics and you know, find some time gain at some point through the race. We're not at the halfway mark yet. We're just lurching into hour number 10 here as we progress, so plenty of racing left to go yet tonight for sure. But it is Jacko GT7 here in 10th place, and 5 minutes down from the overall race leaders here, so we're seeing quick separation in the early part of the race here. I mean, we're seeing some teams that are 2-3 laps down already. At the end of the race, I mean, it's not that big of a surprise to see a team 10, maybe 11, 12 laps down. My hands up in the air. We were that team last year. We stepped in for AHR for 2 races last season as they were unable to make those rounds. So Ten Tenths came in to fill in their spot for 2 races, and boy, did we learn a lot in our first attempt at racing, and then came back a little bit stronger in the second attempt. But I mean, you know, coming out of a 12-hour race and seeing that you're 8 or 9 laps down, it is a tough pill to swallow. It is a tough pill to swallow. But that's part of endurance racing. It happens, and that's just the way it goes. So, like I said, it's how you approach the race debriefing at the end of a long race like this. Obviously, everybody's tired. So rest is always the utmost and foremost, most important thing. The people that are behind the scenes that are supposed to take care of that stuff while the racers are recuperating. And then, the next day or a couple days later, they'll sit down, they'll go over footage, they'll go over notes, and they'll have a discussion about what happened over that race. And from there, you try to figure out how you can make it better for the next round and how you can make some changes. It's just a learning curve. It's a learning process. So we'll see, some of these teams that look like they're struggling right now in Split 1, as the season grows on, become stronger and stronger because they're just getting more comfortable with the style of racing that's seen here. This is no typical open lobby championship style racing where you jump in for a 40-minute sprint or a 1 hour quote-unquote enduro, as they're called. Really, it's a sprint race. I think the maximum you see typically is 90 minutes to 2 hours, and those are pretty rare to get lengths races like that in a normal, 10 or 12 week championship from an organization within the community. Those only kind of prepare you for a race of this magnitude. It's not just the drivers in the cars on the track, it's also the crew and behind the scenes in the Discord servers or the PlayStation chats or wherever it is you're doing your communication. 10 Tenths we use crew spotters, live crew spotters, and PlayStation setup to communicate with our racer that's on track, and our job is to just relay that important information so the driver only needs to focus on getting the car around the track as efficiently as possible. Just trying to eliminate the amount of work on the driver. The driver's already got enough to do. They got to run 70 laps around here before they pass it off to the next driver. The last thing you want them worrying about is fuel load and percentages and timing gaps and all these things. And that's why you have a team. That's why you have a crew in behind the scenes. So, it's a learning, and even the drivers that are succeeding and doing well, and the teams that are finishing in the top end of the field, even those teams are coming out learning massive amounts of knowledge every single racing round. If you're not learning, you're not trying, and that's just the bottom line. It doesn't matter how good you are, there is always something to learn. Alright, so we got Dino in third place here. We don't know what the gap to Mike is right now. He's a lap down, we know that much, so it might not show us that live timing gap for that reason. Dino is 33 seconds, however, ahead of King Ears. So King Ears has settled that gap down. It's not getting bigger anymore, and he's not necessarily closing in. It's just very stable at the moment, and that's not the worst thing in the world. They've already gained a position here so far in this stint, so it's been good forward progression for the number 3 Grid Life Lexus. And the Sector 7 Boomer car here having a good stint themselves as well. They lost one position, granted, to the Grid Life Lexus, but they're still right there, only 3.4 seconds behind, so they really have only lost about 20 seconds in comparison to the previous stint and the previous driver. So that's not that bad in the grand scope of the scope of racing that's going on here over the next 24 plus hours. So Prima GTR has 5.7 seconds now built up over ORT's Neo. You can see he's just up ahead of the 45 Last Minute Racing GTR here, who's a few 2 or 3 laps down now, but they keep chipping away, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them potentially, depending on what drivers take the helms of the 45 GTR and brain is failing me. And the Raw Talent Racing BMW, that's correct. The gap is a minute 26 right now, so if depending on which drivers line up in each of the cars here coming into the next stint, there is potential for possibly the 45 GTR to close that gap up, or maybe even gain position. A minute 26 is a lot to gain over 2 hours, but not impossible, depending on, again, the driver situation. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out there. They're definitely giving it everything they've got. We've got Ross Thorne here in Project Platypus Mercedes. They've got 42 seconds behind Lemony Squeeze now, and I mean, that GTR is just absolutely checked out from 13th place at this point. And heading down to the last car here in our number 77 Honor. Last but not least, and I mean, in the grand scope of things, this driver is actually technically P14 out of 28 teams, because there is still split 2 that needs to run in a couple weeks time. So technically he's in the top half of the field here. So again, it's all perspective on how you look at how your race went as a racer, and that's something that myself as a racer and a developing racer in this situation is learning very quickly. And as a team owner, I feel like our learning curve is a lot steeper than the racers that race underneath of our windows. So yeah, game on. That's all I can say. Let's go on. That's right. It's all in how you look at it. I mean, and I can say this comfortably because we were that team last season. We were the team that was struggling, not necessarily because we were off pay, making mistakes or crashing a lot. It was only just because we just didn't have the pace level of the drivers we were competing against, and you can either let that knock you down and beat you up, which we did after our first attempt, and it took us a long time to recover from that, but at the end of the day, the team grew stronger for it, and we back for another season. So it's all in perspective, but that's perspective that we've had to learn the hard way. So 36 seconds now separating first and second place. These are the only 2 drivers currently on the lead lap. Every other car in the field has been lapped at least one time at this point. We head down into our third place position. They are on lap 57, so they are now a lap down to the race leaders. They have 31 seconds to Team Grid Life in fourth place, who is 1 lap down from the race leaders as well. Heading down the field, we have Sector 7 Boomers here, also 1 lap down from our race leaders, and the other Sector 7 racing team also just 1 lap down. That puts ORT also only 1 lap. Jaylee is 2 laps, so GT Finish racers are 2 laps down, also with the Eric's racing team as well, and the AHR racing team as well. Now, they had a pretty unfortunate incident, which definitely cost them many seconds, and I mean, that is unfortunate. It's unfortunate there's nothing that can be done to correct that, as it is just a quirky game issue that caused it too. So you know what, they just put their head down and keep pushing through, and just keep on racing. So we've got Raw Talent Racing here. They are 3 laps down now, because I believe that the leaders have started lap 59. So 4 laps here for Ross, and 5 laps here for our 14th place driver. So not too bad yet. Shout out to anyone still awake right now. The viewers are definitely not awake right now, or they're very busy eating dinner and spending time with their families, because we're definitely seeing some low viewer numbers here in this early part of the stint here. So people are definitely tucking into their warm bed zones and getting that good siesta for sure. We are seeing some responses. We still have people alive. Alright, so it is Mike here in second place, and that gap is really stabilized between first and second place here. And I mean, we just unfortunately don't have any real close battles here. King Ears is starting to open the gap up on Stig a little bit, 5.6 seconds now. I mean, we've got Team ORT and Sector 7 Cougars within 5 seconds apart from each other here as well. But other than that, I mean, that's what we got. That's what we got right now. So night racing at its finest. What can I say? Go Moose go, says Tommy Turismo. Where is our lovely Aston Martin Loose Moose racing team here? We'll hang out on them here for a moment as they start to navigate around the GT Finland Corvette here. So the 66 car is blue flag car. So thought we were going to see the position swap there. It kind of looked like that GT Finland racers were given the spot up there, but I think that Dino just opted not to take the line. He wasn't quite close enough maybe to make it stick. Being very patient though, however, is the 35 Aston Martin right now in behind the Corvette, and we'll see if the Corvette gives the position up here into the oval, because maybe he's on pace, I'm not sure, but definitely close enough at this point now to be considering the fact that blue flag is waving, and at some point you got to be considering when you're going to concede the position to the third place driver. But the Corvette has pace. I mean, the Aston Martin is not just closing right in on its rear bumper here at the same time. So this is why it is so important to have that communication behind the scenes. These teams having that live crew spotter or a race engineer on there with the driver to help them navigate these situations, and when to decide, okay, you know what, we're pushing our luck here, we got to let these guys by, right? I don't think that's the case right now. I don't think that there's anything wrong here right now. The Corvette's clearly on pace. He's staying just far enough ahead of that Aston Martin right now to honestly probably stay ahead of him, but he does get the position up leading into the checkered flag there, and that's a tough spot to give it up there. Probably could have waited another 100 meters and just stayed high in the braking zone there coming into turn one, and probably cost himself a lot less time, but boy, oh boy, Dino almost got it wrong there. That was a massive wiggle coming under throttle coming through turn one there. Boy, he threw that car into the right side grass there, and managed to keep it underneath him. That's the important thing here, but he's going to have to re-engage this situation again here, and I mean, that's just unfortunate. That's just unnecessary time loss for the 35 Aston Martin. It's of no fault of GT Finland Corvette. Heck, did nothing wrong there. It was just a mistake made by the Aston Martin driver at an inopportune moment, and he's going to have to re-navigate this blue flag situation again due to it. But I mean, that's racing. That's racing. So it has, unfortunately for Dino, that gave up 5 seconds to the Grid Life Lexus in behind. So the gap down to 28 seconds here now between our number 3 car and our lab car. I can't remember what number it is. I was just looking at it. I'm obviously getting tired. My brain's not quite working properly. And we have not seen that 142.8 contested yet in this race. I figured if we're going to see that fast lap get bested, it's going to be in the cooler conditions of the racetrack. We just haven't seen it yet, and it's not that there isn't drivers that are capable of doing it. There's most certainly plenty of drivers in this field that are capable of beating that 42.8, but that 42.8 is holding up very strong here right now, and that was done very early race, stint 1 as well, by number 5 Lexus, currently leading the race. So they on fire. Prima GTR has now got the gap to 7.7 seconds over our defending champions over Boost Racing BMW here. So again, you know, they're doing really well with this car. This car is definitely a little bit outweighed compared to some of the other cars here on this particular racetrack at Daytona. And you know, they are the top BMW in the field right now, and they are in the top half of the field still. So, you know, some see it as a surprise that ORT is not leading this race and dominating here in the early goings in 2025 just due to their sheer performance last season. Nothing has changed. Their performance has not changed. If anything, their performance has probably gotten better since last season. It's just a step up in the competition through all the teams here this season in 2025 has just leveled the playing field. And I don't think there is necessarily going to be a overall dominant team this season. I think we'll see a dominant team per round, but I don't honestly think it's going to be the same team over and over again. I could be wrong. They could prove me wrong. So be it if they do. But based off of paper, and based off of many of the drivers and how many of them I know, it really is anybody's championship. It really is. All right, we in a chat talking about Tim Hortons. That's not. That's my place, man. That's my jam, man. I mean, I could use some coffee, so don't taunt a brother like that. Come on. All right, Raw Talent Racing, 24 seconds. So closing a little bit here on AHR. A 121 now for the 45 GTR, so they have picked up another 6 seconds on the Raw Talent Racing BMW up ahead. So before the stint is even over, he is working hard at closing up the gap, and he's actually closing in on our 10th place team, the AHR BMW here as well. So I'm actually going to stick with this for a minute, because this is an important pass for Lemony Squeeze. And this is a car that is a lap ahead of him right now, essentially. So again, trying to get the lap back from another positional car up ahead of him, and that's pretty important as this team continues to try and chisel away at the unfortunate reality of a major car malfunction, or equipment malfunction, I guess we can call it, with the disconnect early on in the race. So I believe that was stint number 3. That we saw that happen. Now that my brain's finally working again, it was Quintus was in the booth, so it was stint number 3. Moose's and Timmy's Canadian. It doesn't get too much more Canadian than that. Throw in a beaver and some maple syrup, and we got a winner. We got us a winner. Alright, so Ross Thorne here, closing, 54 seconds, has found some pace in this Mercedes, suddenly. The cars just starting to come in later on in the stint. We have seen that today. I have speculated that some of these cars are better on the early part of the run, and some of these cars seem to be better on the latter part of the run, and then there's the Lexus out of all the cars. The Corvette, I think, is probably arguably in this category as well. Are probably the most consistent 2 cars on track here today, as far as well-rounded for the racetrack goes. I guess the GTR, it could be, but I found in my testing the GTR was just lacking a little bit, and that little bit is corner exit. Huge top end in that car, but it takes so long to get it there. And Daytona's just not quite big enough for it to really utilize what it has under the hood. The bigger tracks like Nürburgring, Le Mans, some of these two-minute plus tracks, those are the tracks that you're really going to see the GTR stretch its muscles a little bit. Spa as well. Those are tracks that the GTR can actually give what it has to offer. So it's a tough car to manage when you can't get it right into its top end of the gears, because that is where it produces its power. So it is Sector 7 Esports, 35 seconds up the road right now from second place, and holding very strong at this point. Where on lap 65 of 70s, we're actually getting close to the driver swaps here already, and man, that absolutely flew by. Just got a ping here. I'm just making sure that is not something that is immediately relevant. So I do apologize. Ooh, we hit the wrong button there on the stream. Alright. We're all good. We're all good. No panic. No panic. We're good. No panic in chat. We're good. 35-second gap here between first and second place. We are going to take a closer look at the timing here now for race control, as we are getting near the driver swap. So bear with me here. We are going to take a little bit of an elongated walk through here, just so race control can get an accurate read on the live timing, just in case they need it. So number 5 Lexus is currently 35 seconds ahead of second place Esports Race Asylum's number 44 Corvette, and they have a gap over Loose Moose Racing of, we'll have to wait and see. I was hoping it would change there. So we got 35 seconds to the race leader. We got 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So they are 2 minutes behind Esports Race Asylum Loose Moose Racing 35 Aston Martin currently. We had to do some math there. Had to do it on the fly. We move down to our 4th place driver, the number 3 Grid Life Lexus, is 25.9 seconds in behind Dino, and 2 minutes and 59 seconds overall behind the race leader. Stig from Sector 7 Racing's Boomer, the 764 Aston Martin car, is 9.4 seconds behind Lucas King Ears and Grid Life, and currently 3 minutes and 9 seconds overall behind our race leaders. We head down to the Sector 7 Racing Cougar team, the 64 Lexus. They are currently 32 seconds behind teammate Stig, and a total of 3 minutes and 41 seconds in behind our overall race leaders. That leaves us with the number 1 BMW of Overboost Racing team. They are 9.3 seconds in behind Prima GTR and the Sector 7 Racing Lexus, and currently 3 minutes and 50 seconds behind our overall race leaders. Jaili in the GT Finland Racing Corvette, the number 66 Corvette, is 22.6 seconds in behind our number 1 BMW ORT team, and currently 4 minutes and 13 seconds behind overall race leaders. Eric's Racing Slim is 45 seconds in behind Jaili and GT Finland Racers, and 4 minutes and 58 seconds in behind our overall race leaders. We're doing this a little more quickly here so we don't miss the driver swap sequence. We've got AHR's Jacko in the BMW. What number is that car? I cannot see it. Not sure. We'll get to it in a minute, but they are 31.7 seconds in behind Eric's Racing, and a total of 5 minutes and 30 seconds behind the overall race leaders. That moves us to Raw Talent Racing and the BMW, 28.5 seconds in behind the AHR BMW, and a total of 5 minutes and 58 seconds behind the overall race leaders. That moves us into Last Minute Racing, the 45 GTR, 1 minute 17 seconds in behind Raw Talent Racing, and an overall 7 minutes and 13 seconds in behind our race leaders. That takes us to Ross Thorm and Project Platypus Racing Mercedes, the number 11 car, and they are 58.6 seconds in behind the 45 Last Minute Racing team, and 8 minutes and 12 seconds behind the overall race leaders. And our final team here, the 77 Race Asylum GTR, is 1 minute 7 seconds in behind 13th, and overall 9 minutes and 18 seconds behind our current overall race leader, who will be coming around 2 laps to go for driver swap. 69. Thank you. I knew there was a 69 in the grid. I just couldn't remember which one it was. It is AHR. Got it. Love to chat. Chat is a vital part to what we do here in the booth. The chat keeps the broadcasters honest and on point. So we appreciate the chat very much. So thank you very much for your for clarifying that. All right, so we are going to sit with our race leader here for the remainder of the stint at this point, until he goes into pit lane. There's nothing happening on the racetrack as far as immediate battles going. We have a couple of two car packs that are separated by a handful of seconds right now, but nothing immediately brewing, so to speak. So we are just going to hang out with our race leader, and actually, you know what? Let's jump on board with the race leader here, and like this one better. So we're going to switch it to the roll cage mounted camera. And it was funny actually, as I was watching the broadcast on the jumbotron at the racetrack while I was enjoying the sights and sounds of Daytona in the off time in the booth here, and Evo and Splurge were on. I noticed that when we went into the roll cage cam, that you really got a good visual on how steep the banking is here at Daytona. So I meant to do that sooner, but I get lost in my own talking and forget things. So we'll get an opportunity here to see this on the race leader. He's going to take us into pit lane on board with number 5 Sector 7 Esports Racing Lexus, our current overall race leaders, leading into our number 10 of our 24-hour Daytona. And again, appreciate all the viewers and all the support and everybody watching as always. And don't forget to like and share the stream out. Get people in here to come and check this out, because we have some of the best names in Gran Turismo 7 in the field here today. And it is a pretty star-studded lineup. You're missing out if you're not here checking things out, I tell you what. Honor did very well. He had a good stint there. It was a very good, solid, head-down stint. I fully agree. That was a great stint from Honor. You know, you guys are just putting your heads down and just putting in that time and getting that experience in that car, and that's going to be massive. Yes, we have hit 400 subscribers here. We would like to thank everybody that has subscribed to the channel today. We started at 352 subscribers today, so that is a gain of 48 subscribers. Absolute legends out there in viewership land. We really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much from International Racing Organization. Absolute legends to a lot of you, no matter how you support our championship. Alright, so race leaders are coming in. So it is Sector 7 Racing's number 5 Lexus coming into pit lane, and this is going to start the transition into stint number 6. And I'm not sure who's taking the helm in stint number 6, to be honest. Let's go take a quick peek. I looked a little earlier, but I forgot who it is. Ah, it's our man Cupcake. Cupcake is going to be stepping into the booth for stint number 6 here. Another great broadcaster, and I promise you'll enjoy what Cupcake is going to bring to the booth here for everybody. And you know, not only has the racing talent gone a step up here at IRO, the staff and behind the scenes has gone a step up here at IRO. The staff in the booth has gone up a step here in IRO this season as well. Across the board, IRO has just stepped up the game to bring the absolute best championship in GT7 endurance racing wise in the 2025 season. So much love to IRO and the huge amount of work over the last 2 months that they have put in to get this 2025 season ready, and they had to make a massive adjustment by adding a second split into a series that was not intended to have a second split initially. So the staff and behind the scenes have worked vigorously to bolster the roster up, find extra hands on deck, and really knock out a crazy, fantastic season this season. So much love to our officials and staff and behind the scenes that are putting all this together as well, because 60 days to put together a championship that runs over the duration of a year to this extent is not easy. Massive kudos to our staff here at the International Racing Organization behind the scenes running the show, because oh boy, what a doozy they put together. Absolute doozy. We do our best for sure. We definitely miss stuff. We get a little wrapped up in the action sometimes, but it's been a quiet stint, so it's really been a great opportunity to interact with our viewers and everybody tuning in. You know, that's something that's really great about live streaming as opposed to watching a cable TV show, because, you know, when we were kids growing up watching our favorite NASCAR drivers or Formula 1 drivers or GT racers, whatever the case was be, you know, we were yelling at the TV, you know, saying what we wanted to say to the announcers and correcting the announcers, and it just falls on deaf ears. They can't hear you. But with live streaming and having an open chat during the live stream, it allows that open line of communication between viewer and organization, and I think that is a really great dynamic moving forward into the future of technology and how we watch and utilize our shows and what we love to do. So I think this is a great dynamic of being able to really communicate with the chat and really try to connect with our supporters, because I mean, at the end of the day, the viewers are the biggest reason why we do what we do. You are the support system, and without the viewers, this championship just falls on deaf ears and goes unnoticed. So the viewers are the real all-stars and are the real winners every single week in and week out. So just a massive thank you. So I mean, we do our best to try and give back to those that support us as well, and we appreciate that. We are definitely trying very hard to be as interactive as we can with the community and our viewership as well. All right, so our defending champions here coming in 7th place, or 13.9 seconds in behind ORT's Neo here. Sorry, Prima GTR here from Sector 7 Racing. Got myself all distracted. So that takes us to GT Finland Racers here, and you can see the driver swap screen up on the top right-hand side of the screen here now, which means that Cupcake will be taking over the stint fairly shortly here, as we see GT Finland Racers bring in that 66 Corvette to prepare for driver swap. We got Eric's Racing Slim will be the next one in the pit lane. He had about a minute in behind Jalé here, so it'll be a few more corners yet before we see Eric Slim get into pit lane to turn that car over to the next pilot for Eric's Racing. I just see all these big names and the position on the racetrack that these names are currently sitting in here in this race, and I'm in awe. I'm in as awe as the viewers are, I think, right now, even being in the booth, knowing what I know, having the information that's available to me, and seeing the paper, the stats, and everything going on, seeing what's happening behind the scenes. I'm just as surprised as you guys are. This is going to be a very unpredictable season. I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. So we got AHR coming in here, Jacko GT7 behind the wheel, about 5.5 minutes to the race leader here right now, but is on that in lap here, so we'll be, of course, handing over that 69 BMW, copper and black BMW, a nice different look here on the racetrack compared to the other cars as well. So I'm pulling in the pit lane here to prepare the driver swap. Love it. Love it. Alright, so we got Raw Talent Racing here in the number 20 BMW, and a little bit of a tough stint here. One mistake so far in the stint that we definitely know of for sure there, and it set him back about 20 seconds of total time, and that's what you love to see on your in-lap. Thankfully, it's the in-lap, and they won't actually have to serve that penalty, most likely. They will, but I mean, it's not going to hurt them. They're coming right into pit lane here at this point. The entrance is literally 300 meters up the road, so he's going to pull it in. That cost him maybe half a tenth. That didn't really cost him anything there. Lemony Squeeze is now coming, and that is gravy. Appreciate y'all. Thank you to all the viewers. Love the support. And for those that are rewatching this on GT45 Gaming's YouTube channel after the fact, we hope you enjoyed the stints. Do leave me a comment in the comment section below if you are watching the stints back. Let me know what you think. Give me any feedback. We're always trying to improve the commentary craft and the production value. I have no control over the production value in this series. We have a production manager who does an amazing job. Don't need to do anything, but just do what we do. So I appreciate all of our viewers here in the Winner's Circle and the GT45 Gaming YouTube channel as well. Even though this is unlisted currently, I will put it to public as soon as I shut the stream down, because at that point we're not giving up any relevant information that could be passed off from team to team, and we do have permission from IRO official, one of the head officials, to post public after the stint is done. So appreciate that. So to my viewers that are watching it after the fact, tuning in later, do give me the feedback, and just know that we are coming back here to a full-time scale evening content here at GT45 Gaming as of right now. We had a lot of stuff going on. We've got most of that settled out for the most part here. We still have lots of stuff going on, but that stuff now going on becomes content back for my community and for you guys, my supporters. You guys have been huge, and I've taken a lot of time away from the page to go behind the scenes and put work into the team and the community, and we're coming back big. So get ready, GT45 Gaming and Winners, because we got 3 champs dropping this season, and they're all going to be epic. We are going to stick with this to the end, though, because that's what we do. It's a multi-purpose situation. That way there we have live stream coverage of start to finish of the whole stint in case race control officials do need to see it. It gives them very important information like live timing numbers, and it allows them to sort out, of course, driver swaps to make sure that the drivers are all within the allowances for the driver swaps. So we do like to flow this out right to the end, right to the checkered flags, so just bear with me. We will shut it down once these drivers are released from race control to finish, quote unquote, the stint, and essentially this is a little bit of a behind the scenes look of what happens here at IRO for you guys, because this is raw as it gets for a streamer. I mean, all I'm doing is providing the video feed and the audio and doing my thing, and everything else visually is done by a separate entity literally across the world from me, which is insane to think, but really cool. So this is as raw as it gets. You don't get any better behind the scenes look than what you guys get on my YouTube channel this season from whatever coverage that I do for the organization. So appreciate the support. Like and share this bad boy out. We have hit that magic mark of 500 subscribers, and I thank you all so much for that support. It has been huge, as we've been very quiet over the last few months. You guys just keep stepping up and just keep pumping the page, and I can't thank you enough for it. So that puts us in a whole new level on YouTube. So we are back to business, baby, and I can't wait to just hang out with y'all again, because it's been a long time coming. A long time coming. But sometimes you got to step away to take care of other matters. You know, that's real life. Adulting. Gotta love it. Alright, so we have all 14 drivers now in. We should see race control release these drivers, and they need to finish the race. So the race control has the replay available to them for stewarding, etc., etc. Obviously, there is a large amount of purpose for having the replay at the end of the stint. So that's just what we're waiting for here right now. And again, the live coverage is important as well, because it's just secondary evidence, essentially, of timing, gaps, etc. So we might as well go through all that before everybody gets out on track to finish. There we go. And race controls release the drivers. They don't need to finish this race in any particular order at this point. They just got to finish the race. So you can see there's a little bit of bumping and grinding, and guys just relieving a little bit of race stress right there. And it's game on. We're going to have a fun little three-way battle here as we head to the checkered flag.
This is great. I love it. This is great. A little bit of fun. I mean, you know, you got to blow off steam. These are stressful, and obviously the driver's not allowed to be, you know, punching each other off the racetrack and blowing donuts and cranking e-brakes and stuff like that. But they, you know, they're just having some fun and blowing off some steam. This is absolutely all within regulations right here. This is fantastic to see that the drivers are enjoying themselves. This is just a sign that the drivers are enjoying themselves, and we're 10 hours into a 24-hour race now, and that's important that the racers are having fun. And it's just really, honestly, no point in doing it if you're not having fun. See, and I mean, you know, they're not worried here at this point now. Everybody's just bringing it home.
Everybody's just bringing it home. Absolutely love it. There's that flag, man. Gotta love the flag,
man. That was great. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
We will be back for stint number 8.
Is that right? Might be 9. I don't know. Let me go look. Yeah, stint number 8. So I will be back on at midnight Eastern time for stint number 8, and then we do stint number 10, and we're done for the day.
Is there a bezel there? Really?
What's going on there? There is. Hold on. Edit transfer. Screen. What? Yeah. Hopefully that fixed it.
Alright, chat. We'll be back in about 4 hours' time. Love ya. See you soon.